Well, hello again. We are continuing on the thought of evangelism bringing order to life through ordinary people. Extraordinary change can happen. Yesterday we talked about different giftings, and Romans 12:4-5 tells us this: "For as in one body we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function. So we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members one of another, having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us." We all have different gifts. God has made us all different. It takes the pressure off us from all standing on a soapbox and pointing and telling people about Jesus, because he's given us all gifts and he's given us different ways to communicate the gospel message. In a book by Bill Hybels, it was called The Contagious Christian, he talks about 5 evangelistic styles. So I want to just read a few of those, or read 5 of them to you today. I just want you to think about what style best suits you, because you all have different gifts and we all have different ways of doing things. I know my gifting is going to be completely different to other people's. But that's how God makes us, so the body works as one. So I just want to read these to you. The first one is called the confrontational or direct approach. This is the guy who stands on the street corner who tells you the good news, but he also tells you that, you would have heard a million stories like this back in the 90s, where the preacher would be saying, if you walked out those doors today and got hit by a bus, do you know where you'd go? It was all about a bit fear almost. I got completely saved out of this approach. It's a great approach, and it brings the reality of a godless existence is hell. It's a great approach, but you need someone there following up and discipling people, actually talking to people about God's love and grace, because after all, God is love. It's not all about gloom and doom. We don't want people to think that God is a scary God. So the confrontational approach is not for everybody. Some people will do this successfully, but it needs a good group of people around them. The second one I want to talk about is the testimonial approach. Now, I do like this approach because your testimony, the way God has changed you, is relevant and it's true. It can't be denied because it's happened to you. My story I can tell people, and people can not believe it, not like it, but they can't deny it because it actually happened to me. It's what God's done in my life. The testimonial approach actually reaches a lot of people because it's heartfelt, because you're passionate about it. And you'll be surprised at how many people you'll talk about what God has done in your life, and they'll think, yeah, well, I need that change in my life. The testimonial approach is fantastic. So tell your story to people. People need to hear your story. Never be afraid and ashamed of sharing the gospel and what God has done in your life, because it is very powerful. The next one is the interpersonal approach. Now, this approach is about becoming friends with people. The best thing we can do as Christians is be normal. I've told the story many times. The reason that we stayed in this church is because people were normal. They didn't want anything for us. They didn't push their opinions on us. They just loved us and treated us well. And they were just completely normal. And I think that's really important, that people see Christians as normal people. At Holden's, I made friends with lots of guys. And it wasn't because I walked around with a Bible and had a wooden cross. It's because I was normal and approachable. They knew what I stood for. I was in the world, but I wasn't a part of the world. And I was able to share about Jesus from that point on. So being relational with people is super important, and we need to be normal. We need to be approachable and able to speak to people about day-to-day topics as well as Jesus. But in your life, you need to point to Christ by your actions, not by your words. So being relational, being friends with people is super important. Invitational approach is super important. We need to be inviting people to church or to church events. For a new Christian, the invitational approach is fantastic. You may not have the words to say, but you know the guy at the front does. So bring people along so they can hear the gospel message, but it doesn't have to be to a church service. You'll be amazed the change you can make in people's lives and see change come in their lives. When they come to a men's event, a men's breakfast, they can come to youth, they go to, the younger guys, invite them to the kids' events and those sorts of things. There are so many things we do as a church, dads for kids and all these sorts of things that you can invite people along to. The great news is you don't have to say much. You just have to ask people along and they'll hear the gospel message that way. And then you build that relationship with them and they'll continue to ask you questions. But it's really important to be an inviter. We need to share the gospel message with people. If you don't have the words to say, the best way is to invite them to church. So make sure you're an inviter. The final one today is a service approach. If you naturally notice the needs of others and enjoy serving them, then you might prefer the service approach over other areas of evangelism. You may not have the words to say, but you can do things for people. You may hear of people that are sick and in need. You can cook them a meal. You can go around and visit them and just be there for them and pray with them. Or, it might be someone within in your community. It might be your neighbour needs a lawn mowed or something like that. Just do something to serve people, to show Jesus in action. Jesus came to be a servant and to serve people. It wasn't the other way around. We need to be servants. We need to show Jesus the way Jesus was, and that's by serving people. We need to love people and show it in action. So there are five approaches there that I reckon everybody can fit into one of them. You may not like talking, so serve someone. You may not have the words to say, so invite them along to church. Make sure you're normal. Be normal and be friends with people. Be kind to people. Be nice. Let them know where you stand, but don't be nasty about it. Don't be judgmental of people. Love people. Jesus loved people. We need to show Jesus in everything we do. I hope this has helped. I hope you understand the importance of sharing the gospel message. The very last thing that Jesus said when he went to be with the Father is go into all the world and preach the good news. I want to challenge you today that it is everybody's responsibility to be an evangelist. You may not be the guy on the soapbox that's standing up on stage, but you can serve someone, you can love someone, you can treat someone with dignity. Everything like that points to Christ, because that's what Christ's characteristics are. We need to be evangelists for Jesus. We need to share the good news to people, because we know so many people who are going to hell and they need to hear the gospel message just within our friendship groups. So make sure you tell someone, make sure you show someone about Jesus. And can you imagine how good this world is going to be when more and more people come to know Christ? Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.